You ever wonder what made your grandma's cooking just so unbelievably good? That flavor you try to recreate but can never quite get right? Well, turns out she had a whole arsenal of secret cooking methods. And the crazy part, a lot of these techniques were actually banned by so-called experts. But now modern science is proving they were pure genius all along. Okay, let's get into it.
Look, it wasn't about having expensive ingredients or the latest fancy gadgets. Her kitchen was pure magic, and that magic came from a deep, intuitive understanding of food that was passed down for generations. These were her secret techniques, these simple little tricks that turned an everyday meal into something you'd never forget. And somehow, we've lost them along the way.
No, I'm serious. In the mid-20th century, this new wave of health and safety advice just swept through our kitchens. And a ton of Grandma's time-tested methods got labeled as dangerous or just plain wrong. But what's so wild is that researchers are now discovering that all that wisdom, it was basically a form of unwritten food science. She was right all along.
All right, let's kick off our countdown with something you probably have in your kitchen right now, the humble cutting board. For decades, we were all told to be scared of the wooden ones. But you know who wasn't? Grandma.
So back in the 60s, health authorities were absolutely convinced that because wood is porous, it was a total breeding ground for germs. The big myth was that plastic was safer, cleaner, easier to sanitize. But, well, modern science has proven the exact opposite. Microbiological studies show that wood actually contains natural antimicrobial compounds. It literally kills bacteria. So the big takeaway here, as long as you clean it right, that wooden board is probably your safest bet.
Okay, next up is a technique that directly challenged everything we were taught about food safety. This one probably gave health inspectors nightmares.
We've all had it drilled into us, right? Meat goes straight from the fridge to the hot pan, no exceptions. Experts warned us about terrifying bacterial growth. But Grandma knew something they didn't. A super cold steak hitting a hot pan just seizes up. Culinary research now shows that letting that meat rest and come up to room temperature lets the muscle fibers relax. The result, it cooks a full 25% more evenly, and you get a final product that is so much more tender and juicy.
And now for a masterclass in burger perfection. You ever wonder how Grandma's grilled burgers were always so juicy, never, ever dry, even if you like them well done? The secret wasn't some fancy sauce. It was frozen.
Yup, it's really that simple. While that burger is cooking on the grill, the ice cube inside starts to melt, releasing this steady stream of moisture from the inside out. It basically steams the meat as it grills, keeping it from drying out and guaranteeing a perfectly cooked, juicy burger every single time. It's such a simple, genius trick.
Ah, yes, the holy grail of roasting a chicken. That perfectly golden, can't help but eat it first, crispy skin. Grandma didn't need a high-tech air fryer. Nope, she just needed a little something from her baking cabinet.
This is pure, beautiful kitchen chemistry at work. See, baking powder is alkaline, which means it raises the pH level of the chicken skin. This helps the proteins break down way more efficiently. At the same time, it's drawing moisture to the surface where it reacts with the chicken's natural fats, creating these tiny little carbon dioxide bubbles. And that is what gives you that unbelievable, crackling, golden brown crust. You know, if there was one single ingredient that just defined the flavor of Grandma's kitchen, it was this. She probably kept it in an old coffee can right by the stove. It was the secret ingredient that modern cooks were told to just throw away.
For decades, bacon grease was basically public enemy number one. But we know so much better now. Not only does it have a really high smoke point, which makes it perfect for frying things like eggs, but its unique fat profile actually helps your body absorb fat-soluble vitamins from your vegetables. And come on, let's be honest, nothing can replicate that deep, smoky, savory flavor it adds to everything from green beans to cornbread.
So how did Grandma's spaghetti sauce always cling so perfectly to every single noodle instead of just sliding off into a watery red puddle at the bottom of the bowl? Simple. She knew not to throw away the pasta water.
So here's the secret. As pasta boils, it releases all this starch into the water. That cloudy stuff? That's liquid gold. It's a natural, amazing thickener. Just adding a little splash of it to your sauce helps the oil and the water in the sauce bind together. It's a process called emulsification, and it creates this beautiful, creamy coating that just clings perfectly to every single noodle.
If you ever thought Grandma's coffee was just surprisingly smooth and not bitter at all, even if it was just a cheap store brand, she probably used this little counterintuitive trick.
This is such a fascinating bit of taste science. See, your tongue has all these different receptors for different flavors.
The sodium ions in salt, they actually get in the way of our ability to perceive bitterness. So a teeny tiny pinch doesn't make your coffee taste salty, it just cancels out those harsh notes, making the whole brew taste smoother and even bringing out its natural sweetness.
Grandma's pie crusts were the stuff of legend, right? Impossibly flaky, super tender, and just so light. Her secret wasn't some special European butter or fancy flour. It came from a bottle in the liquor cabinet.
Okay, here's why this works so brilliantly. Gluten, the thing that can make a pie crust tough and chewy, only forms when it comes into contact with water. But vodka is only about 60% water, so it gives you just enough moisture to form the dough, but not enough to develop all those tough gluten strands. Then, when it hits the hot oven, the alcohol evaporates way faster than water, leaving behind all these tiny little air pockets, and that's what creates that signature, unbelievably flaky texture.
All right, I'm going to warn you, this one sounds truly bizarre. But if you want the most unbelievably moist and tender cake of your entire life, you have got to trust Grandma on her most shocking pantry secret.
Just think about it for a second. What is mayonnaise? It's literally just an emulsion of oil and egg yolks plus a little acid. It's a pre-made, perfectly blended fat and protein mixture. The emulsifiers in the mayo distribute the fat so much more evenly throughout the batter than you ever could just by mixing, and that results in a cake with a perfect crumb and just incredible moisture.
And here we are, the #1 banned hack that proves, without a doubt, that Grandma was a genius of flavor, nutrition, and sustainability all rolled into one. It's the one thing that almost all of us throw away without even a second thought.
That's right, the water you boil or steam your vegetables in. Health authorities back in the day called saving it unsanitary, but that liquid is absolutely packed with water-soluble vitamins, minerals, and flavor that all leaches out during the cooking process. Using that as a base for soups or stews or even gravies adds this massive boost of nutrients and a deep, savory flavor base for free. It is the ultimate expression of waste not, want not.
And that really just gets to the heart of all of this, doesn't it? These weren't just quirky little traditions. They were practical, they were effective, and they were solutions born from generations of trial and error. It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes the oldest wisdom is actually the most advanced.
So if you had fun uncovering these forgotten secrets with me, make sure you subscribe for more explainers just like this one. But now, I really want to hear from you. What was that one trick your grandma did in the kitchen that nobody else seemed to know about? Share those precious memories down in the comments below.